Stella here! Today we are going to explore 10 bands from Australia. AC/DC are without doubt the biggest band to ever come out of Australia, as well as just the biggest band ever. Back in Black is the second best-selling album of all time, after Michael Jackson's Thriller. AC/DC are not the typical type of band that I talk about on my channel, so I'm just curious, do you like AC/DC? I used to have a coworker, so whenever he was feeling bored or sleepy at work, he would turn on AC/DC's live performance of Highway to Hell at River Plate in Argentina for an instant injection of adrenaline, and then he would yell really excitedly, "Oh yeah, AC/DC, best band ever!" Scientists have actually tested this when comparing the testosterone levels of male subjects before and while listening to AC/DC. The results were staggering, similar to the effects of difference of caffeine levels before and after 4 Red Bull cans. AC/DC are either great or overrated, depends on how you view them. They could come out as crass, filthy dirtbags, playing their predictable, simple chords cock rock. Yet at the same time, they also offer the perfect, tuneful, carnal anthems to enjoy the purest rock and roll. The Saints are a punk rock band from Brisbane, formed in 1973.
Everybody knows about the Pistols and the Clash, but the Saints, like, they wore the wrong shape of trousers and had too long hair. But the music was what it was all about. This is punk rock as it should be.
The Saints' debut single, Unstranded, from 1976, was not only one of the most significant moments in modern Australian music, but it also predated the debuts by other punk bands such as Sex Pistols and The Clash.
One of the reasons why the Sex Pistols got signed so quickly is because they got this little single from Australia with I'm Stranded on it, and McLaren did his number and thought, oh, we're going to miss this, and quickly ran out and get him in a studio. This Australian band's already got there.
This single had a massive impact on me back in the late 70s, I guess it was. And it seemed to give us a generation, really, a license to be what we wanted to be. And it kind of gave us a kind of soundtrack to our lives.
Some people say that the Saints marked a progression in Australian music from imitation to innovation.
I'm stranded on my own.
The Saints brought attention to the Brisbane punk scene, and together with Sydney's Radio Birdman and Axe, they represent Australia's first wave punk in the late 70s and early 80s. The guitarist of the Saints, Ed Kuepper, later formed the post-punk band Laughing Clowns that explored a more experimental sound with unconventional tone signatures and cut-up lyrics. The Go-Betweens are an indie pop jungle pop band from Brisbane, mostly active in the 80s and early 2000s. If you like the Smiths and early IEM, definitely check them out. The Go-Betweens released a few singles through Scotland's Postcard Records, whose roster also included Orange Juice, Aztec Camera, and Joseph K. as the very early indie pop. Australian bands tended to move to United Kingdom for their musical career back in the day, perhaps due to cultural association. I must interrupt to say that please excuse me if I do not sound very clear or speaking very clearly right now, because it's kind of uncomfortable to me to open my mouth or just make big movements around my mouth right now. If you have seen my channel before, you know there used to be a more around here, and yeah. So I did a surgery and have it removed a while ago, yeah. Also, that means I'm going to keep a bitchy resting face throughout this video. which I am very excited about. Can you tell? I have always oddly associated the 18th century English Romantic poet William Wordsworth with the music of go-betweens, whose music a mix of joyous, sparkly wittiness and troubadour melancholy. Another similar bands are the English band Felt. Sing as go-betweens, they turn romanticism into jungle pop perfection. In Brisbane, there is a bridge called Go-Between Bridge, which was named after the band. Well, literally, it certainly makes sense.
And my island home, my island home.
Warumpi Band are an Australian Aboriginal rock group formed in Papunya, Northern Territory in the early 80s. Aboriginal Australians are the various indigenous people who have lived in Australia for more than 45,000 years, and they take up about 3.3% of Australia's population. Warumpi Band play a type of folksy blues rock, both in English and their native language, Lurija. In 1986, Warumpi Band and another Aboriginal group, Gondwanaland, toured with the Australian rock band Midnight Oil at some of the most remote Aboriginal communities. The experience then became a major inspiration and theme for Midnight Oil's sixth studio album, Diesel and Dust, an album that is lauded as one of the greatest Australian rock albums. Other representative Aboriginal music acts are Yothu Yindi, Archie Roach, and Jeffrey Gulumu Yunubingu. The Church are new psychedelia, alternative rock bands formed in Sydney in 1980. The Church are one of the most successful Australian alternative bands. Influenced by the 60s psychedelia and jungle pop such as The Birds, The Church adopts a dreamy sound, rich in texture and melody. The Church's 1988 album, Starfish, was a commercial breakthrough, and it contains the iconic song Under the Milky Way.
Wish I knew what you were looking for.
Together with Echo and Bunnyman, The Teardrop Explodes, and The Soft Voice, The Church were also part of the 80s new psychedelia scene that would influence the later dream pop and shoegaze. By the way, The Church are still active and just released a new album last month. Hunters and Collectors are an Australian post-punk art rock band formed in Melbourne in 1981. Their band name was taken from a song of the German krautrock band Cain.
Hunters and collectors all come out at night.
Hunters and Collectors are indeed influenced by krautrock, and some of the albums are produced by a producer called Courtney Barnett, who had also produced for Noi, Kafiak, and Custer. Rolling Stones' Toby Croswell described their 1984 album, The Jaws of Life, as aesthetic push ranged from barrenness and isolation of the outback Australia to the beer-swilling machismo of the suburbs.
I was looking to see some dreams straight from your fingers.
Hunters and Collectors are frequently associated with the term pop rock. The term came from the venues where most of these bands originally played, the kind of small, noisy, and hot, crowded pubs. They were not really ideal for music venues, and therefore they favored the simple and loud songs with catchy lines for the audience to drunkenly shout back at the bands. Many Australian bands started their careers as pop rock bands, such as AC/DC, Chisel, The Angels, INXS, and Midnight Oil. I'm just wondering if the relatively high prevalence of Australian heavy rock in the 70s and 80s is related to the pop rock culture back then. Is there any Australian out there who knows the answer? Dirty Three are an instrumental rock, post-rock band formed in Melbourne in 1992. Dirty Three makes startling powerful sounds out of a combination of guitar, drums, and violin. They sound like a somber landscape painting by Caspar David Friedrich of ocean waves, steel boats, and darkening sky. Nick Cave once said, Dirty Three are my favorite live band, no contest. I think it's because they don't have a singer. When I watch them, they ignite something. I start having grand plans and hundreds of lyrics leap into my head. Indeed, there is a kind of sublime, poignant beauty in Dirty Three. Since 1997, Warren Ellis of Dirty Three also became a full-time member of Nick Cave and Basses. Dirty Three used to tour with Payment and Sonic Youth in the 90s, and they'd also got signed to Touch and Go Records in the 90s, a record label that tends to favor an instrumental and experimental sounds. I love Touch and Go Records. The Avalanches are an Australian electronic music group formed in Melbourne in 1997. Their debut album, Since I Left You, is rated as 10th best album of the 2000s by Pitchfork. A very similar album is DJ Shadow's Introducing Blah Blah. The album contains over 900 individual samples, including the 60s French pop of François Zardy and also Latin music of Sergio Mendes, old school comedy, and Madonna song Holiday. The result is a very colorful, trippy, and kaleidoscope-like sound. It's like a unique mix of disco, dance, instrumental hip-hop, electronica that also predates the 80s retro revival and other micro-genres in the 21st century as well. Several other Australian electronic groups are Cuts Copy, Chess Faker, and The Presets. It's hard to find a female singer-songwriter to relate to. For some reason, many women in the alternative music world tend to go for the kind of like a sad girl roots. Even though I can sometimes also feel sad and melancholy, but I think I generally prefer like fun, laid-back, and witty music. When Courtney Barnett released the album, sometimes I sit and think, sometimes I just sit in 2015. I was very happy.
We drive to a house in Preston. We see police.
A female singer-songwriter playing 90s slacker rock with deadpan humor about everyday life and personal confessions without pretension and without the kind of melodrama. Yeah, if you know what I mean. Sounds like a dream. The song Nobody Really Cares If You Don't Go to the Party is literally the story of my life. Other current Australian female singer-songwriters are Julia Jacklin, Stella Donnelly, and Ruby Fields. So the last Australian bands are King Gizzard, the Gizzard Lizard. King Gizzard, the Lizard Wizard. In the 21st century, Australia also witnesses a burgeoning psychedelia scene with bands such as Tame Impala, Pound, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and psychedelic punk Crumpets. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are famous for their prolific discography and their eclectic sounds. In the year of 2017 and 2022, they released 5 studio albums each year. When King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard release yet another new album, you know several months have passed. They are mostly psychedelic rock, but have also experimented with prog, krautrock, metal, surf pop, and jazz. I find online there is how to get into King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard albums charts. If you're interested, you can check it out. I have linked in the description below. Some people think that they are the most interesting band nowadays. Some people, however, merely view them as genre tourists. Overall, I would say they inherit the spirits of Cain, King Crimson, and maybe also a little bit of the Beach Boys. King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard performed in Shanghai in November 2019, and then in 2021 they released a song called Shanghai. Inspired by the experience of getting drunk while eating spicy Sichuan hot pot. Anything could be a source of recreation, and King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard remind us that perhaps the most important element of music is simply having fun. Okay, I think that's about today's 10 Australian bands. I must say this is the most difficult recording section I have ever had. And feel free to comment about your favorite Australian bands, or if there's any good Australian bands that you think are worth listening and I haven't mentioned. Yeah, please comment down below. Actually, one of the first CD I have ever bought was a Savage Garden, a formation. As always, I want to thank my Patreon support. Thank you very much. There seems to be some kind of a thunder going on in the sky, so I think I'm going to listen to Thunderstruck by AC/DC right now. Okay, see you, bye bye.